Why the US market? I speak to a lot of founders. Like last year, we attracted about almost 2,000 leads of founders. And I understood that a lot of founders, and probably you, do not understand why you should go to the US market and why don't get some traction in your local market. So it's all depending on your goal. So I think the first question which you should ask before even the US market is, what's your goal? And probably there are two answers. So first goal is on financial side, of course, the goals, is EBITDA. So EBITDA, you want to make money like every month and put money in your pocket at the end of the month, or you want to grow and sell your company at the end of like 5 years time period or 7 years time period. This is kind of because you need to understand at the beginning what do you want, because approaches are totally different. For example, myself, I was doing first, like almost all these 12 years, I was doing the first thing. I was focusing on EBITDA. I was focusing on how much money we make and how much money we have at the end of the month. And it has pros and cons, so you need to figure it out now. If you want to grow and sell your startup, probably the exit going to be much higher at the end. So first, determine your goal. What do you want? Do you want to have a classical business where you get some money at the end of the month to your pocket and buy some stuff, or you want to grow and sell it at the end and grow capitalization? So speaking about the US could be useful for the second one. So 57% of all money which are spent worldwide spent here in the US. I realized it in October 2021 when I was in Stanford course and I saw IRS report. So in the US, you can look at IRS reports. IRS, it's got Internal Revenue Services, something like that. So it's about taxes. And you can see where people are spending their money. So I looked out here and it turned out that 161 billion is spent on education in 2021 in the US market only, whereas the whole the whole market size of educational products worldwide is about like 240 or 260. I don't remember how much exactly. So 57% of all money which are spent on education worldwide are spent here in the US. So here you have the biggest market. Just imagine the biggest market, and majority of buyers are here. The majority of exits are here. Again, according to Crunchbase, you can check it. You can go to Crunchbase and see where our exits are happening. So majority of them are happening either in China or in the US. Some of them are happening in India. And also what is the most important, I think, to understand, the most important, that here in the US, you have high multipliers. What is a multiplier? So this is a question which you should ask yourself. Don't commit my mistakes, because I didn't ask these questions to myself when I was doing this 12 years journey. Because multipliers, it's the most important question when we speak about capitalization. So the multiplier is, it's basically a number which defines your capitalization. So let's have an example. If you have a classical business, not a startup with a capitalization with fast growing, you have a classical business. Let's say I have somebody like I have. You have annual revenue of 10 million. Let's say your annual EBITDA, again, EBITDA is like money which revenue minus cost is your EBITDA before taxes. So it's like your revenue before taxes. So let's say you have a business which generates annually $10 million, and your revenue, your EBITDA, sorry, is 1 million. right? So you have 10 million revenue, 1 million is EBITDA, can be 2 million, whatever. So what is your evaluation? Or in other words, how much is the cost of your startup? If I want to buy your business, how much would I pay you for that? So the thing is that if it's not a startup, if it's a classical business, your multiplies are going. So this is 2 is a multiply. So your multiplies is on EBITDA. So I'm a potential buyer. Let's say you're a potential seller. So I would say, okay, how much is your EBITDA? You say 1 million. I would say, okay. And these multipliers, by the way, this is multipliers are in Eastern Europe. So in Eastern Europe, the average multiplier for offline business or online business is 1 or 2, from 1 to 2. So let's say your evaluation at the end of the story would be 1 million multiplied by 2. So you have 2 million, your evaluation at the end of the story. So you have a business with 10 million in revenue. Let's say your EBITDA is 1 million. So 1 million multiplied by 2 is 2 million. So this is probably, if you have this kind of business somewhere in Eastern Europe, or let's say in some European country, this probably would be your multiplier and would be your exit if you want to sell it, right? Whereas, let's see on a startup in the US. So let's say you have a business in Eastern Europe, like I used to have, and you have a US company, but with a different approach when you get investment and you grow it. So we have the same company, basically the same amount of clients, everything is the same, and you have a revenue of 10 million. You see, annual EBITDA is question marks. Why? Because it matters, but it does not really matter. If you're a startup, the EBITDA does not matter. What matters is something different, which I'm going to tell you. But it doesn't matter how much of like every month or every year, how much you have, because your multiplies, your evaluation is going to be multiplied. So your revenue gonna define not EBITDA, but your revenue gonna define the cost of startup. You see, so if we speak about classical business, your EBITDA defines the evaluation. But if you speak about startup, revenue defines the evaluation. It means at the end of the story, if you want to sell your startup, which is in the US market with a scalable technological product, the evaluation gonna be 10 million multiplied by 5 or 10. It can be from 5 to 10. So the evaluation at the end gonna be 100 million. So when I realized that, I got this paradox. What is the paradox? That 100 million is much more than 2 million at the end of the story, because basically I spent, for example, 12 years in this field, and my first school I opened in 2012, and I sold it in 2021. So the thing is that you spend the same amount of time and energy, but at the end of the story, the difference is huge. Why? Because in the first case, you were doing business focusing on EBITDA and how much money you can get every month, every year out of the business. Whereas the second approach is, it's all about growing revenue. So the only difference is the market and the approach. So do not commit the mistake which I committed. If you wanna, again, if you wanna do some scalable business, and you wanna get and even with the capitalization, as I said, it's even easier. Why? Because you don't have to think about EBITDA at the moment. All you need to think is about how to get more revenue, how to get more clients, how to get more market share. So now a question is for you. What do you think is an average exit in EdTech in the US? So how much does it cost to buy a startup in the US? So if you have a startup in the US, what do you think? So the average exit is 237 million. Again, you can check it in Crunchbase. You can go to Crunchbase and Google we search last 3 years. Probably you're afraid to go to the US market now, and this is totally okay. And you might think, okay, I start to make traction in the local market for now. And then when I have first traction, or I get like $1 million or $2 million, then I would go somewhere else. So it's a big illusion. I know a lot of companies who failed to go to the US market or failed to go somewhere abroad because they are sticked to their local market. And I am an example of it. So I also thought, okay, I'm going to go internationally when I get some first traction, but it's really difficult. And I'm sure you know a lot of examples, because when you have a first traction, when you have 1 million revenue or 2 million revenue, even a $500,000 revenue, you have something to lose and you cannot be focused 100% on going to the US market. So the question is, do you want to have an exit with like 100 million plus? If you want to have it, you need to start to go to the US market yesterday, because a lot of guys are doing it now. Again, if you want to have a classical business, a EBITDA business, yeah, it's a good way to go to your local market and get some money from your local market.